And it looks like we are live. We're going to let everything kind of breathe for just a second, make sure we got green check marks across all platforms. It looks like we are pretty well good to go. Mile High hello, everybody in Broncos country, and welcome into a kind of unique episode of the Mile High Insiders podcast. Today, I am your host, Lance Sanderson, and joining me, as always on the show, is our resident credentialed press attendant. He is Luke Patterson. Luke, what's going on, man? How you doing? Long time no see, long time no talk. It's been since the NFL draft that you and I actually got to sit together on a pod and have a pretty insightful conversation. I'm kind of pumped to do this. What's up, man?
Yeah, man, I'm pumped to have you. I wanted to reach out to you right away as soon as Nick was saying he was moving and couldn't make it. I'm like, man, I got to have Lance on. Haven't got a chance to rap with Lance since the NFL. So, yeah, getting all warm and mushy here on a Saturday night, man. But no, we're going to talk rookies. Rookies is the talk of the town right now in Denver, right across the entire NFL. And you had the rookies report to Dove Valley. And I just happen to have the Dove Valley Deep Diver, one half of the Dove Valley Deep Divers, and Lance Sanderson here. Be sure to check Lance out at is that Sanderson Lance? For your Twitter?
You can follow me at Sanderson MHH and for Luke at Luke Patterson LP. Also, guys, make sure while you're at it out there following everything. Follow at MHI_football pod. Follow at DVDD _pod. That is my the Dove Valley Deep Divers Twitter account. Follow, let's see here. Let me find all of them really fast. Follow at Huddle Up Pod for instant updates on what's going on with the entire Huddle Up Podcast network. Follow at Mile High Huddle for instant news and analysis, film articles, opinion articles like the one that I just put out on Drew Lock earlier today is when it went live. Anything Denver Broncos related, anything Mile High Huddle related, you're going to find it at Mile High Huddle on Twitter. Also, guys, if you are able to do so in a financial position to go and get yourself some merch, hit the merch booth at huddleuppod.com. Get yourself a hat, get yourself a t-shirt. Some MHI stuff is coming from what I understand. According to what Chad was saying the other day on the Huddle Up show, you guys got some MHI stuff coming here soon. There's a hat, t-shirt, hoodie, coffee cup, face mask, everything that fits your fancy. And if you guys are not able to do so financially with what's going on in the world right now, the three easiest ways that you guys can help us grow exponentially, especially on YouTube, subscribe to Mile and share everything out. Now, getting back to the conversation at hand, the rookie class. Yes, everybody did just show up and report for training camp, and we're seeing a bunch of contracts coming out. Jerry Jeudy just had a massive hype video showing out some of the legendary Broncos player from the past, John Elway, Terrell Davis was in there. I believe Shannon Sharp was in there. Eddie Mack was in there as well. It was just very kind of a cool outreach to Broncos country to show some support for the team and the history of the franchise itself. But at the very end, he says that these guys were legends. I'm going to be one, or something to that effect. Luke, did you get a chance to see that yet?
Yeah, I got to check it out just like everybody else. Anything that's Jerry Jeudy related, I'm watching, whether it be a workout video, whether it be his clothing line that was released the same day he signed his rookie deal. I mean, it seems like all things are heading in the right direction for Jerry Jeudy. I am excited to see him start getting into football shape. We all know there's a difference between being in shape and being in football shape. He's obviously got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of confidence. And when I see videos with him working out with Emmanuel Sanders, he's wearing that number 10. He's embracing the Denver Bronco narrative, and he's calling this place home. And that's something that should excite Broncos country. And I want to talk a little bit later about Jerry Jeudy, because obviously he's going to be the elephant in the room, right? He's the most poised rookie of the entire class. But I've got a hot take about Jerry Jeudy. I want to get to the end because that's all anyone's talking about right now, Lance, is Jerry Jeudy. And this Bronco rookie class, man, there's a lot of other players that have a lot of different potential. I want to get to it.
Yeah, I was actually hoping you wanted to go Jerry Jeudy first, just because we just got done talking about it. That is what it is, man. This is your show. I'm just here to guest host. But anyway, last night, I'm not sure if you got a chance to check out the Dove Valley Deep Diver show. We had Carl on, and we did some bold Broncos predictions, hot takes, and stuff like that. And the one that I had regarding Jerry Jeudy was that he was, in fact, going to break 1,000 yards this season and also potentially be in the Offensive Rookie of the Year running. So it's not really a hot take. I mean, it is. The 1,000 yards is the big thing. The Offensive Rookie of the Year just depends on the quarterback position, what Clyde Edwards-Helaire is able to do in Kansas City, running out of that explosive backfield, that explosive offense with Patrick Mahomes running the shots there. But still, I mean, 1,000 yards for Jerry Jeudy, that's not necessarily very likely, especially what we've seen with Pat Shurmur in the past, not really using that number 2 wide receiver as like a primary weapon. But there's just so much to love about Jerry Jeudy, the way that he works inside, the way he works outside, and everything like that. I want your hot take, though. What is your hot take regarding Jerry Jeudy this year?
Yeah, I like that, Lance. And just to respond to that, I don't think that's unreasonable at all for anybody that's going to come at you for that take. I think that's interesting because Jerry Jeudy has also been linked to comparisons of Odell Beckham Jr. And in Odell Beckham Jr.'s rookie year, he went for 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns. So I definitely think Jerry Jeudy could get there. For me right now, my hot take with Jerry Jeudy is I think Jerry Jeudy's going to become the number 1 wide receiver on this Broncos team. Ooh. And that is not a slight to Courtland Sutton. That's just me looking at the optics. When the Broncos opt to take a number 1 wide receiver and then a second-round wide receiver in Jeudy and KJ Hamler, and you start looking at the contract situation for Courtland Sutton, John Elway's having a hard time getting a safety deal done right now for Justin Simmons wanting to be paid that top dollar at the safety position, all right? What's he going to do with a wide receiver? He barely got the Demaryius Thomas deal done. I mean, that went down to the 12th hour, I think it was, and he ultimately played on the tag, if I'm not mistaken.
No. So Demaryius Thomas actually signed at 11:59:59. Like he signed like 5 minutes before the deadline, had a big contract extension. But yeah, it was a very sketchy deal. So with Justin Simmons, I agree with you. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So I just look at Courtland Sutton's contract. It's going to be up after the 2021 season, and by then, Jerry Jeudy, he's still going to be in, year 2, year 3, going into year 3 of his deal. I mean, good Lord, you're going to have already a number 1, a number 2, and a number 3 wide receiver. Why are you going to lock up money in Courtland Sutton? Courtland Sutton, arguably one of the steals of the draft, one of the best draft picks John Elway has had. And no disrespect to Courtland Sutton, and I can already feel it coming. Luke's saying that Courtland Sutton's not as good as Jerry Jeudy. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying the optics are suggesting that Jerry Judy's going to take this number 1 position simply because you can't pay everybody, Lance. And man, if we can't get the deal for Justin Simmons done, how are we going to get a wide receiver paid?
I think it's just such an interesting question regarding what's going on in the world right now. We just don't know what's going to happen with the salary cap. I mean, there was words and discussions going on, at least from what I could tell, that they were talking about taking away some of the cap money from this year to push it to next year to kind of stretch out that cap so to keep some of these players' contracts still at least competitive and whatnot, not make people lose some money and have to do renegotiations and everything like that. Money is not an absolute thing. It's really kind of hypothetical with a lot of this stuff. So with Justin Simmons in that aspect, how do you project what could potentially look like the salary cap next year or even the year after that? We don't know what the effect of the sickness is going on right now. Like there's so much to look more into this later. So I agree with you on that one. But with Courtland Sutton, I mean, he's still got this is year 3, so he's got this year, and then after next year, they still got some time. And you never know, he might play on the franchise tag as well. There's an opportunity for the Broncos to potentially reach out and give him some money. But I agree with you on that. You have Jerry Jeudy, who's he is the plug and play wide receiver of the NFL draft this last year. I mean, the most technical route runner we've seen in the last decade. Has some hands drops, concentration drops, stuff like that. That a little bit frustrating. There's a knee issue as well, but it's not necessarily looking like a huge deal. But at the same time, what does he look like moving forward? If he does prove out to be that worth that number 15 overall pick, and you want to save some money for him, how does everything just kind of line out? And as of right now, I kind of agree with you that Jerry Jeudy could potentially become the number 1 wide receiver in this Broncos offense. I don't know about watching Courtland Sutton walk though. That guy's super, super special, man. Super special. There's lists coming out right now of players around the NFL saying he's a top 10 wide receiver right now, and that might even be too low. Like he might be a top 5 wide receiver right now. So how do you let a guy as talented like that walk away from this team? But the other crazy factor into this is, what does Drew Lock have coming to him at that particular point? It's very, very weird. It's hard to look at. It's a lot of fun conversation to have though.
Yeah, and they're two stylistically very different receivers. I mean, Courtland Sutton is a very big-bodied, physical wide receiver. I can't wait to see what he can do. But I also know that Courtland Sutton, I feel like he's been slighted in all the rankings. You could go look at the video game ratings, all that stuff if you want. Courtland Sutton's been slighted, and I can't figure out why. In my opinion, Keenan Allen is not better than Courtland Sutton. And that's not me being a homer. That's not orange and blue glasses. That's just me looking at it for what it is. And one of the reasons I'm saying I think Jerry Jeudy has the ability to surpass Cortland Sutton is because you need to look at the Broncos and watch what they do, not what they say. And when they're drafting these premium talents in these early rounds like Jerry Jeudy, man, I'm feeling excited, but I'm also looking down the road a little bit because you got to know that John Elway's always looking to be one step ahead of everybody else.
Yeah. Well, let's kick that conversation down the road just a little bit and work our way into the second round draft pick for the Denver Broncos in 2020 and KJ Hamler. And this is kind of an interesting conversation. I'm not sure if you heard about it, but Benjamin Albright on Broncos Country Tonight a couple weeks ago said that from what he is hearing, that it's not going to be KJ Hamler on the field to start the season. Instead, it's going to be Tim Patrick, and they're going to slide Jerry Jeudy into the slot. So you're going to see Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, and Jerry Jeudy on the field. What role do you predict that KJ Hamler is going to have in this offense?
That's interesting. I hadn't heard that. So I haven't heard anything about that. So I'm trying to chew on that real quick. That means Tim Patrick would be your starting wide receiver. Who's in the slot?
Jerry Jeudy would be in the slot.
Jerry Jeudy's in the slot. I think that would be a mistake. Absolutely. I like Tim Patrick. I like Tim Patrick because he profiles like Cortland Sutton. Yeah. God forbid something happened to Cortland Sutton, knock on wood, and you get an injury bug. You've got that big-bodied receiver that can block on the perimeter, that's willing to go up for those 50-50 balls. But I just don't see why the Broncos would take KJ Hamler's speed and leave it on the sideline, especially for Tim Patrick. That's not a slight against Tim Patrick, but he's a reliable secondary wide receiver, and I think he's continuing to be on the rise, but he has to have a great training camp, Lance. He can't come out here and just assume that he's been the dog for a couple of years that's always been in the room. No, you better get after it because there's some young cats that are, here to play and here to win. I don't know if I agree with that take. I'm not saying that Ben didn't hear that or anything, but that wouldn't make sense to me. Why would you take a second round wide receiver who's a speed demon and not play him in the slot?
I really don't know. And to me, it actually is kind of mind-boggling to think about it like that. However, I do actually really like the idea of putting Jerry Jeudy in the slot. In fact, when he was at Alabama, he worked primarily out of the slot because he had Henry Ruggs on one side of the field, Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith on the other side. They worked Jerry Jeudy out of the slot a lot. So why not just keep him where he's comfortable and let him use that route running technical ability to open some stuff up over the middle of the field and let your big guys go down the field. Now, Tim Patrick's not a true vertical threat. He can go up and get some passes and stuff like that. Better probably on some post routes, but he's not going to take the top off of the field in that kind of an aspect. As far as like a deep burner, that's where you want to see KJ Hamler, and in fact, you want to see Jerry Jeudy in that as well. There was actually let me pull this up on my phone really fast. I had a tweet pulled up about Jerry Jeudy and what he was able to do in his college career at Alabama. This is from Pro Football Focus college account on Twitter. It says, Jerry Jeudy had 53 plays of 15-plus yards with at least a step or more of separation. That is 8 more than any wide receiver since 2018. Like, he's not only just a, technical route running player that, works inside and laterally cuts and stuff like that. He can actually work a little bit deeper. And then he's also explosive after the catch, very hard to tackle, very jitterbug kind of a player. So I can see putting him in the slot and working that way. But still, to have Tim Patrick on the field on the opposite side of Cortland Sutton, I get it if you want to stretch vertically, but why not take the true speed demon and put Hamler in that kind of role, especially working him out of the slot with the slot fades, the crossing routes that you can work with him. Like, it's a mind-boggling decision if that's the way it actually plays out.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And when I think about it, I think in substitution packages and stuff like that, you can absolutely see that. But when you talk about a starting lineup, for everything you just said about Jerry Jeudy, I completely agree. And it's the expertise with the route running and the route tree. It blows my mind. It's outside of the workout videos because everybody knows in the NFL, if you don't share a workout video to Twitter, for Lord's sake, it didn't happen. You're not working out unless you're sharing your videos. Right. So Jerry Jeudy's above that. He's definitely got some swagger and a little bit of arrogance coming in, but I want that for my number one wide receiver, and I think he's going to become that for the Broncos. But because he's so knowledgeable and can be so versatile in the wide receiver positions, various wide receiver positions, I would expect KJ Hamler to be that slot guy, just because he's got a lot to learn from a wide receiver standpoint. Speed kills in the NFL. The Broncos are trying to emulate that against the Kansas City Chiefs, and I would expect, everybody wants to compare Tyreek Hill to who they think their next Tyreek Hill is. Tyreek Hill is his own player, so everyone needs to get off of that notion. But speed kills in the NFL. John Elway sees it. and he's not going to have it on the sideline.
No, I don't think so. And one thing that I want to get to before we get to the comment section here really fast is just looking at what Pat Shurmur likes to do with his offensive scheme, spreading some stuff out and stuff like that, getting, 3-4 wide receivers on the field and running that 11 personnel, one running back, one tight end. I'm really kind of curious to see what it might look like if the Broncos go into a 10 personnel. So one running back, say like a Melvin Gordon in the backfield with Drew Lock lined up at shotgun, and then 4 wide receivers on the field. What does that look like when you have Jerry Jeudy in one slot on one side and then KJ Hamler on the other side with Tim Patrick and Courtland Sutton on the outside, looking like a doubles formation? How does that work out? Because you got the technical route runner, the speed over the middle. What does that look like? Like, that's an amazing concept. And I just thought about that before we went live. Like, holy cow, this 4 wide receiver set that the Broncos can run, because you have the technical route running ability of Jeudy and the speed of Hamler. Whoa, man, this is going to be awesome if that actually comes to full.
I got goosebumps there because you just gave me an idea too. When you're in that 10 personnel, right, and the defense is either they're gonna be bringing the heat or they're gonna be dropping back. And let's say you've got Philip Lindsay or Melvin Gordon back there, right? What happens if you motion them out? And you've got, just Drew back there. Drew's gonna beat somebody. He's got so many weapons on the field all at once. So not only do you have Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, maybe Philip Lindsay, Noah Fant. I mean, you could do so many different things, from 11 or 10 personnel, and Pat Shurmur does that best. I would argue that Pat Shurmur has a lot of pressure on him right now. I know we're focusing on the rookies, but KJ Hamler, speed kills, and it seems like he's embraced Broncos country as well, especially his family. I love looking at them on Twitter, and they're sharing videos. His mother, his father of their workouts, his famous, Bears be walking in the crib and everything. Everybody loves that. Right, especially with some videos of Bears running out on the field and stuff like that here in the Rocky Mountain City. So I love it. I love KJ Hamler. I'm excited to see what he can bring to the Broncos. I think he's got that underdog mentality. I think he's strong as hell also. A lot of people don't think that because he's a little guy that's fast that he can hold his own. I'm excited to see what he can do because you look at that upper body strength with KJ Hamler and it's there. You look at that attitude and it's there. And that work ethic's there. Whew. I think the Broncos got themselves a burner in the second round.
Yeah, no, man, I'm pumped. I'm so excited to see what he can do. I want to see him on jet sweep motion, screens, bubble screens especially, get him out in space, let him do what he does with that speed, get the ball quickly into his hands and let him go to work, because it's just like, I know you just said Tyree Kill's his own player, but KJ Hamler brings that elite first step quickness, that elite, I can take the top off of everything. I'm elite as far as running by everybody. Nobody's going to be able to touch me. So I'm very excited to see how that looks. Now, let's get to this comment stream really fast. Say hello to everybody. James from across the pond. Duke, what's up, buddy? Terry coming in from up north in Canada. Hey, Peter Middleton coming in from Turkey. What's up, dude? It's long time no see. Glad to see that you actually got onto the live show. Now, Terry, up in Canada, showing that Peter really showing that Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is, in fact, a hashtag state of being. Terry coming in with a $2 super chat here. Hashtag use the force, Luke, and then followed it right back with hashtag Sir Lance a lot. I appreciate that. Hey, everybody, what's going on? How are we doing tonight on a beautiful Saturday as well? Man, it was absolutely gorgeous. Brian coming in, just showing some love here. Good to see you, Brian. A long time no see for you as well. Thanks, buddy. We appreciate that. There was another couple. Let's grab those before we break into the third round and go talk about some Michael Ojemudia stuff.
Yeah, and I think I saw our girl Pabby in there.
Yeah, Pabby's down there. I'm going to get to that one really fast.
We got to give her a huge shout out, man. She's a big listener, and this is a perfect time just to tell you guys we appreciate your support so much. Get over to milehighhuddle.com. Get it at Mile High Huddle. We've got so many different podcasts we've got that guys do a great job on, but we also have a terrific staff of writers. Then these guys work tirelessly all over the world, not just in the United States. So be sure to check that out. Some great articles and great content at milehighhuddle.com.
Yeah, and Pobby showing her generosity as she always does. Massive, massive generosity. Great pod as always. Thank you all for all that you do with a big old orange heart.
Thank you, Pabby.
We love you, Pabby. We definitely appreciate you. Go Broncos, as she always says to close out her super chats. There's an interesting question here from Brian Greenfield, and let's see if I can find it really fast. Bwana, do you have that right now? There it is. What would your take be if we would have drafted CeeDee Lamb? Okay. Don't get me wrong. I love CeeDee Lamb. I had Jerry Jeudy as my number one wide receiver just because he's so plug and play. Now, the one thing about Jerry Jeudy and the difference between Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb is that CeeDee Lamb is really kind of scheme transcendent, but also quarterback transcendent. He can do it pretty much with anybody. Great catch radius, very good after the catch. The thing, I just like Jerry Jeudy more because he's so much more refined as a route runner, and that translates immediately to the NFL level. He played in a pro-style offense rather than a spread-style offense at Oklahoma for CeeDee Lamb. Now, Luke, I want your take on this. What would it look like if the Broncos would have taken CeeDee Lamb? Are we even having KJ Hamler in this conversation right now?
Yeah, that looks tough, Brian. That's a really good question. I would assume that Jerry Jeudy's off the board here, and if that's the case, you know what? I actually liked CeeDee Lamb over Henry Ruggs. I know that there's a huge difference in speed and everything there, but in terms of experience, and I feel like who's the better football player, I think CeeDee Lamb is definitely a better football player than Henry Ruggs.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, he's not as fast. There's no way. But I think the Raiders ultimately made a Raider move by going and getting them speed. I hope I'm not eating crow, because if I am eating crow, that means the Broncos defense is going to be getting torched by this speed demon out of Las Vegas. But CeeDee Lamb, I like CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb profiles very similarly to Cortland Sutton in terms of the size. He's able to use his big body and big frame to go get that ball. He loves to get a DB one-on-one. He's not afraid to go into double coverage. The guy's an athletic freak. To see him to jump up and get some of those balls and move at his size. I liked CeeDee Lamb a lot coming out of the draft. I know that Zach was pretty happy when the Cowboys got him. So that was a head scratcher for me, especially because of what's going on with Dak, and they just paid Amari, and things are crazy down there with the Cowboys right now. So that was a little bit of a head scratcher for me. But CeeDee Lamb, a player I think we're going to have to keep our eye on, and especially having a star on his helmet, that'll be no problem for any of the networks covering the young wide receiver.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I loved the pick when they did that, just because the rich get richer there on that offense. I mean, yeah, they're going to be a run-heavy oriented offense, but man, Amari Cooper is phenomenal as a wide receiver one. He is a true wide receiver one. No, don't let anybody tell you any otherwise. Yeah, the drops are frustrating. He's kind of cleaned that up over the last year and a half or so. But still, Michael Gallup as a number 2 there, and CeeDee Lamb can play inside as well. So you got a dynamic slot weapon that can play inside, going across the middle of the field, big body, big catch radius. There was a lot of people, I believe, that were saying that he compares favorably to DeAndre Hopkins. So, I mean, if that's the kind of player that they got, yeah, like seriously, that was a big hot take, was people like CeeDee Lamb is DeAndre Hopkins 2.0. It's the same guy. So, it's an amazing comparison to me. And if that's what they get in CeeDee Lamb down there, and you have Michael Gallup, who just had a 1,000-yard season, and another wide receiver one in Amari Cooper, that's a lot of weaponry to get the football to. I don't know how it's going to look over the middle of the field without a tight end there. I'm not sure who their tight end is right now, but still, with the run-heavy offense that they have, Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott doing some read option stuff like that, that's a lot of weaponry for that offense. And they have a very good offensive line as well. Dallas is going to be dangerous this year. But to make this go back to the Denver Broncos, we're going to break ourselves into the third round, and we'll come back to the comment stream here in just a few minutes, guys. But sorry, Blana. So going into the third round, the Broncos took Michael Ojemudia, the cornerback out of Iowa, that is a prototypical Vic Fangio cornerback. I mean, big body, long, lengthy, works very well in zone, understands the scheme, understands how he passes off his zone coverage to the next player, doesn't get beat deep a lot, and is a tremendous click and close tackler, gets his hands on a lot of footballs. I'm just skeptical, and I always am skeptical when it comes to rookie cornerbacks as to what they're going to translate into the NFL. Like, yeah, it's a perfect scheme fit. It's a perfect marriage there. Ojemudia as a third-round pick, that's a premium pick on a player like that, but still, playing on the outside in this defense, there's not a whole lot of help right now. He's going to have to step in immediately. Now, Luke, what do you think of Ojemudia, and what is the immediate impact he's going to bring to this Broncos defense?
He has to be a starter day one, especially being a third-round pick. I think this one really threw me off. I think it threw you off. I think the only person it didn't throw off was Nick, who's not here because he's the biggest Iowa fan ever. Just ask him. He'll tell you.
Yeah.
I was really surprised by this, and I'm trying not to look at it like I don't want to talk myself into liking Michael Ojemudia. I just don't know a lot about him. And I'm trying to go back and watch that film. And just like when I'm talking to Nick and we cover these podcasts, he's telling me, yeah, he's a great zone corner. It should translate and everything should be fine. It's just he's not that hot, sexy cornerback that everybody's going to want. He's not an Aqib Talib. He's not a Chris Harris Jr. And you know what? Neither is AJ Bouye. That's okay. If you've got some blue-collar corners, you're going to do okay in this league. You know, Vic Fangio doesn't compromise on a couple of things, and one of those things being not prepared, another thing being tackling. And Michael Ojemudia, you look at Champ Bailey, who just went into the Hall of Fame, right? And what was one of the best things he was known for? Tackling, especially in the running game. He was able to wrap guys up around the legs, avoid injury, and be an effective member of the run defense as well. So when I look at Michael Ojemudia, I think he needs to come in and immediately start playing as if he's going to be starting opposite AJ Bouye. I think it's a very thin secondary room, especially for the Broncos. But for me, this pick has Vic Fangio's fingerprints all over it. The Broncos play a zone dog defense. They got themselves a dog in Michael Ojemudia. I'm expecting this kid to come out, get after it, and show some attitude.
The one thing that does actually translate very well with Michael Ojemudia, not only because he's so good in zone coverage, but just look at what the Iowa Hawkeyes defense does. It's very similar to what Vic Fangio likes to do with that matched quarters, some cover 3 stuff and stuff like that. And Ojemudia, like I said earlier, he doesn't get beat deep. He understands that in his zone, he has to be the deepest man in his zone. And he understands where those gray areas are so he can pass guys off to the secondary. I can't remember the safety's name at Iowa from last year, but they worked so well together in tandem where he would pass off a guy or receive a guy coming from the other side of the field. And then we say it a lot, and this is maybe a scouting term that people don't necessarily understand, click and close. So what that means is to put your foot in the ground and drive vertically. So you have recognized the football is coming. You're going to put your foot in the ground and then drive towards the football vertically up the field. And Michael Ojemudia does that very well. He gets his hands on a lot of footballs doing that, but he also sets up well as a tackler. And just like you were just saying, that's one of the most important aspects of this Vic Fangio defense, especially on the boundaries. Like if you cannot tackle on the boundaries in Vic Fangio's defense, you don't deserve to be even on the field. Now, the one thing that I'm going to be kind of interested to see is how does Isaac Yiadom work in this rotation as well, just because they want to see him at some safety position. They want to get him in the nickel a little bit, but he can play on the outside. Another big, long, lengthy cornerback. He's not very good in zone, but again, very good click and close, drives vertically on the football very well, and is a very good tackler. These guys project as the same player, only Ojemudia is much better as a zone defender. Is that wrong?
No, not at all. I think that's fairly accurate. And one thing I always look at cornerbacks, I look for their hips. And I look whether or not they can transition from that back pedal smoothly into, just like you said, planting that foot and being able to move forward. Learning how to, essentially it's bend but don't break, right? When you just get the whole thing down to its core, bend but don't break. And that's why you look at Vic Fangio and you've got to look at this red zone defense. And I'm thinking it's going to be one of the best in the league this year again. And Michael Ojemudia, you look at the safeties with Kareem Jackson and Justin Simmons, and you talk about being able to communicate in chemistry. I mean, my Lord, this rookie has got so many guys to help him. And you've got AJ Bouye, who's embracing a leadership role. He's embracing this veteran team. I mean, this is his fourth stop, if I'm not mistaken, right? He went to Houston, and then from Houston, he went to Jacksonville. So I guess Denver would be third for AJ Bouye.
Yep.
So this would be his third stop. So he's a vet. He understands this. And Vic Fangio wanted AJ Bouye too before he went to Jacksonville, guys. I mean, let's not forget that. Chicago was really going after AJ Bouye. So Vic Fangio, again, letting John Elway know, hey, I'm down with you setting up your offense, but give me the players that I want on defense. And John going out and getting Vic what he wants.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it was actually kind of interesting because if I remember correctly, Chicago actually offered Bouye more money. He just wanted to go down and play. He wanted to go down and play with Jalen Ramsey. He wanted to play on that Saxonville defense. And I mean, he played tremendously that first year. What was it, 2018, I think it was? His Pro first year down. Yeah, it was a Pro Bowl year. That was after he got a massive contract. But I mean, we're talking a guy that is scheme transcendent. He can play man, he can play zone, he can play inside or outside. He also is very good tackler as well. So the Broncos have a pair of decent tackling, decent in zone cornerbacks on the outside. It's just, again, I hate leaning on a rookie to go in and have that immediate impact. But with the Broncos cornerback depth right now, they have to. And Carl brought it up last night on Dove Valley Deep Divers that the Broncos have to have Ojemudia come in immediately and contribute. Now, going into the next third-round pick here.
Hang on real quick on that with that Michael Ojemudia, because I completely agree, and I heard Carl say that, and I watched the show. Now, one thing with that, and I would ease people into that and try to talk them off the ledge, including you. Yes, he's a rookie, and it's hard to lean on rookies. But you know what? Rookie wide receivers are going to be starting next year, too.
That's true.
You had arguably the best wide receiver class ever in this draft. So rookie on rookie crime, we can deal with that. And that's going to be okay, because those rookie wide receivers are going to make mistakes too. It's all about being able to balance those mistakes. So I would say look at that a little bit too, and know that, you know, there's going to be some leaning on by the vets on this young kid, and he's going to make mistakes, but he's a smart, intelligent player from everything I can gather. So yeah, I'm pumped. Michael Ojemudia got to come in, start day one.
Yeah, absolutely has to. I mean, you're the first of 3 third-round picks. Now we're going to get to the second one here. And this is the guy that, Luke, I dropped this on you before we went live, and Lloyd Cushenberry III out of LSU, the big nasty, the big ugly mauler center in the running game. This guy is projected to start day one. And I asked you this question. I'm going to ask it again here. Who do you think is going to be the most impactful rookie out of this 2020 draft class? And for me, I understand it's easy to go with a guy like Jerry Jeudy or a KJ Hamler or a Michael Ojemudia. But to me, the most impactful guy day one, if he does get the starting job, has to be Lloyd Cushenberry. Now, hear me out, guys, before you torch me on this. I understand offensive lineman versus wide receiver. This is the guys that get the stats are the ones that are going to get all the shine. But you know what? Lloyd Cushenberry stepping in as the day one starting center has to be able to understand all of the line checks. He has to set protections from the line of scrimmage. He has to work cohesively with a right guard and a left guard at the same time. He has to be able to, communicate not only between those guys, communicate to the tackles as well. What is our shift going to be here? He's going to have to communicate with Drew Lock. And it all starts from the center position. He is the quarterback of the offensive line, and you hear that a lot, okay? The quarterback of the offensive line. If he fails and he doesn't hold his job and do his job correctly, the entire offense fails. It doesn't matter. If he fails at the front and in protecting Drew Lock, the entire offense fails. Now, that might be a hot take, but Luke, I don't think I'm very far off on that.
No, not at all. The Broncos need a true center. And, Connor McGovern did what he could. He was serviceable, I guess, but I'm really not going to miss him, going to the Jets. Something I would also add to that, there's going to be that rookie learning curve, and something we just talked about with Michael Ojemudia. Well, it's going to be there for Lloyd Cushenberry too. The nice thing about Lloyd Cushenberry, he's got Dalton Reisner and Graham Glasgow right next to him. Both players know how to play the center position as well, especially Graham Glasgow. So he's got a lot of knowledge, not only with Hall of Fame coach Mike Munchak, but in his two guards. I know the tackles are a huge concern for the Broncos, and if Juwan James is going to be healthy, everyone assumes he's going to be the greatest thing ever. I'm not quite sure I'm ready to go there just based off of his salary, but left tackle, Garrett Bowles, it is what it is. He's going to be starting. Elijah Wilkinson, yeah, you might see the change later in the season, but when you look at Lloyd Cushenberry, I was so pumped that they took this kid. I had him gone in all of my mocks. So I was pumped that they were able to take him. There were a couple other centers I liked. I liked Shane Lemieux, but he had a lot of I think there were some injuries, right? Was Shane Lemieux?
He was so scheme specific though as well. A lot of zone stuff. He would have fit in with what the Broncos want. There were injury concerns there. He was also a lot smaller. Lloyd Cushenberry is a lot beefier of a guy, a lot better in the running game. Lemieux is a better pass protector in my opinion, but he works better laterally than Cushenberry does. But the one thing, and this is something that I wanted to talk about, was just understanding in the run game. What you see with Lloyd Cushenberry, he's a mauler at the double team, but he doesn't move vertically up the field very well after he engages and then tries to move up in that inside zone to go and attack and pick that linebacker off to create that cutting lane for his running back behind. Now, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was, absolutely amazing, but still, Lloyd Cushenberry needs to work on that, and that's probably the biggest thing he needs to work on as far as the running game goes. But in his pass sets, and this is the biggest concern that I have with him, he's not very good at passing guys off. When he attaches and he holds, and it can actually lead to some flags at the next level. He also then doesn't get back to his gap assignment and keep that pivot position and work that way. But now he does have, and you just brought it up, he has Graham Glasgow, one of the best pass protecting right guards in all of football, and Dalton Risner, who, if it's not for Quentin Nelson, we're talking about this guy as the all pro guy every single year. Dalton Risner is going to be a stud. Guys, lock that in. 10 years, Dalton Risner at left guard for the Denver Broncos, because he's that good. But so now you've got two guys that are very good as far as passing guys off, and he's going to be able to work with Lloyd Cushenberry and everything like that. He's going to learn from those guys a lot as well. But that's the biggest thing to me, is being able to drop anchor when he has to, set up, pass guys off in pass protection, and then reach to the next level as a run blocker. But still, he's good enough that the Broncos have now a solid interior for at least the next 3 years, because Dalton Risner is now going into year 2. He's got 2, 3, and 4. They just signed Graham Glasgow to a 4-year deal, and they just got Lloyd Cushenberry on a 4-year deal. So the next 3 years, the Broncos are going to have a cohesive interior to the offensive line for the first time in probably since
years,
like at least 2012, 2013, at least.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I start thinking about old centers that never worked out, right? You talk about J.D. Walton, and you start going back, in those Kyle Orton days and stuff like that. Matt Paradis, great respect for Matt Paradis, was a great player, but the injuries just killed him, and it just never really worked out here for John Elway wanting to pay him, and I certainly understand that. But I'm pumped to have a true center, Lance. I don't want this guard center hybrid, and I'm sure Lloyd Cushenberry can play guard too. You know what? Because they all can. All 3 Broncos with Risner, Glasgow, and Cush can all interchange. And I know that's going to be great. And people are going to say, oh, maybe switch them up a little. No, leave them where they're at. If injuries happen, then you go ahead and shift it. But Mike Munchak should be really, really pumped. Now, John Elway sends a huge message to Drew Lock by drafting Lloyd Cushenberry. He's giving Drew Lock his prom date, so to speak, saying, all right, Drew, this is who you're going to be going to prom with for the next 10 years. If you're our franchise guy and he's our franchise center, then Tom Nalen and John Elway, y'all get together and y'all ride. And you look at these famous relationships, you look at Peyton Manning and I'm forgetting his name right now, the center out of Indy. Jeff Saturday, and the screaming match between Peyton and Jeff on the sideline and stuff like that. You look at the relationships between quarterback and center, and it's so important. Now, I completely agree with you. He's got to improve his hand placement in the pass pro. He gets a little sloppy, gets outside, and then tries to dig those heels in after he gets beat. Can't do that in the NFL. You also got to be able to move your head a little bit better as you work to the secondary. And like you said, you got to pass guys off. Now, I think delegating those responsibilities are going to be very black and white for Mike Munchak and those veteran offensive linemen. And I don't feel like Graham Glasgow gets enough run. I know that we're going over the rookies right now, but I'm really excited. And Nick said it too last week. I'm pumped about Graham Glasgow. The more I look into his film, I got to meet his little brother, Jordan Glasgow, out of Michigan State last year at the Shrine Bowl, and talk to him about the Glasgow family a little bit. Seems like a great guy, and he seems like a nasty, big, ugly. Lloyd Cushenberry, I like it. You're looking at another starter for the Broncos with Lloyd Cushenberry, man. And that excites me. The Broncos have a historic history with that center position. And Tom Nalen, every Broncos fan knows Tom Nalen, and we're trying to find the next one. I'm not saying Tom Nalen and Lloyd Cushenberry are the same players, but we're all expecting Lloyd Cushenberry to come in and immediately contribute for this Broncos offensive line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, he's going to be the most impactful rookie. If he's not, then the Broncos offensive line is going to struggle. He has to step up immediately. And yeah, I understand the whole Juwan James impact. Is he going to be healthy? If he is actually going to play and play at a high level because of his health, his knee injury and everything like that. But when he is healthy and he does play in those even number years, we are in an even number year. So hopefully we'll actually get to see him for 13 to 15 games. That would be awesome, because he is a very good pass protecting right tackle. Garrett Bowles gets a lot of grief. The improvement that I saw with him last year, we don't talk about him anymore on Dove Valley Deep Divers, just because we gave the hot take a long time ago that he gets a lot more grief than he is actually deserved. But still, I mean, if it all comes down to
are you guys Garrett Bowles apologists? Is that what I'm understanding?
A little bit.
No. A little bit, yeah. No, you heard it first, Broncos country. You can go after the Dove Valley Deep Divers. Get at them on Twitter. Get at Sanderson MHH and Eric Trickle on Twitter as well. Eric's one of our better analysts for the draft, and he is constantly breaking down film, constantly getting after Lance, and I love it. Not sure I'm going to apologize for Garrett Bowles, but it is what it is. But you guys are exactly right. When, there's no need to just keep beating on Bowles, because that's an easy story. That's not even analytics. It is what it is. And John Elway's made it clear we're moving forward this year with Garrett Bowles. Now, next year and the year after, we don't know. But brace yourself, Broncos country, because 72 will be the starting left tackle.
Yeah, I understand the holding penalties and everything like that. I had a whole spiel. I broke it down on our podcast. I broke it down on the Huddle Up podcast, the episode that I jumped in with Zach because Chad was gone. Statistically speaking, he's at least an average left tackle, which is perfectly fine. Now, the holding penalties is the thing that everybody gets caught up on. And I understand he led the league in holding penalties last year. He had that horrible game against Chicago, and had 5 holding penalties in just that one game. Now, 5 penalties in one game, those are half of his total called and accepted holding penalties over a 16-game season. Is the holding really that much of an issue?
The referees told Mark Schlereth that they felt bad for him in that game. They literally felt bad for him, and that's coming straight from Mark Schlereth. So yeah. I'm gonna believe Stink when he says that, because he's Lord knows football like Mark Schlereth.
Well,
and he was actually calling that game, and it was funny to hear some of those calls. I know you listened to him as well.
Oh, yeah.
So it was funny to hear that, but yeah, no, it's funny. You won't talk about him there, but you'll talk about him here. I got you, and I got you going, and I'm going to keep it going every time you're with me, Lance. So, no, moving ahead, man. It's really important to know that the center, Lloyd Cushenberry's not getting enough run either. I know when he was initially drafted, and people looked into his history at LSU, and just being such a high-profile player there, being such an Iron Man, being such an upstanding member of the community. That's something else that John Elway has really prided himself on bringing in for players. Dalton Reisner, Graham Glasgow, they should mix and get along just fine. And man, those guys should be mean. They should be nasty. And more importantly, they're intelligent. Those guys they're smart, and they look at this game as their craft. They're not just a bunch of meatheads or a bunch of fat slobs on the offensive line. This Broncos offensive line is going to be disciplined under Mike Munchak this year, and I feel pretty confident saying that.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're at 41 minutes right now, so we got to kind of move this conversation forward. We're going to hit the let me go back to the comment section. There was a super chat that I saw coming in from James. Duke actually jumping in here. Without the 12th man, the fans in the stadium, it's going to be an advantage to most visiting teams. Sure, but it's also going to it's also going to take away from from the home teams as well. I mean, any big play, crickets. It's all crickets the entire time. Any big play from the offense or a takeaway from the defense, there's no big loud cheers. There's no big loud boos coming down when the offense is on the field. Like, I understand the communication part of the offense and whatnot. Like, obviously you see like the RCA Dome when it was Peyton Manning back in the early 2000s, Andrew Luck now in Lucas Oil Stadium, and now it's going to be Phillip Rivers. But still, like the offense, when the offense was on the field in Indianapolis, that place was absolutely eerily quiet. So, but every time that there was a big play, the place would absolutely erupt. It's going to take the wind out of the sails of your offense, where you have a big, huge play and there's no crowd noise. You're not going to have that major roar of applause and stuff like that every time you have a big play. It's going to be more of a detriment to the home team than it is going to be to the visiting team in my eyes.
Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, Duke, appreciate the donation. Duke's a big, big super chat star for this show. So thank you very much, Duke. Your support means a lot. And just speaking of 12th man, how about Jamal Adams? I know we're talking rookies, but how about, I think 12th man, and obviously I'm going to Seattle, and I'm thinking they made some news today. Lance, what'd you hear about the Seahawks trading for a Pro Bowl safety?
I believe that's an amazing scheme fit. Obviously, Jamal Adams is probably one of the more scheme transcendent safeties, probably the best safety in the NFL aside from Derwin James over in Los Angeles. And the Seahawks have a rich history of cultivating amazing safety talent. I mean, Cam Chancellor, you had Earl Thomas up in there as well. Like they've done an amazing job. Marquise Blair is going to benefit so huge from this. I actually read a very interesting article from Matt Miller. That was the premise of my Drew Lock article the other day. But Marquise Blair is another player that Matt Miller tabbed as a potential breakout superstar in 2020, and he's going to get a lot of help from Jamal Adams. It's an amazing fit. That defense just got a heck of a lot better. All right, Terry coming in here with a $2 super from up in Canada. Hamler is a beast with the ball in his hands. Hey, you're not lying. All right, we're going to move this forward. John, if you get a
Thanks,
chance,
Terry.
try to grab that super from James. I saw it coming in earlier. There it is. Lance, do you think it's getting harder to find true HWZX wide receivers in the draft? I'm not exactly sure what you mean there, especially with college focus on speed and spacing. Could be a factor in Sutton's future. Height and weight, height, weight, speed, X wide receivers. I understand where you're getting there. Okay. So yeah, I guess it could be. Wide receiver talent right now is all over the place. I mean, you've got short, shifty, nimble guys. You've got big, huge freak athletes, height, weight, speed athletes. A good example of this one from this last draft, 6'5", 225, runs a 4.39, 4.38. Denzel Mims out of Baylor. That was my guy.
Yep.
I mean, I pounded I slammed both hands on the table for Denzel Mims in this draft.
You and Brandon Stokely both, man. You guys love Mims, man. And yeah, he looked good, man. Mims looks good.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, James, but I mean, there's so much. Yeah, the focus is on speed, but there are a lot of lengthy guys. Rashad Bateman, I think, is one. He's like 6'1", 6'2". I'm not sure about Rondale Moore, but I know that there's some outside ability with him, and he can play inside and outside as well. There's another one. I mean, Jalen Waddle's 6'2", 215 or something like that, and he might be faster than Henry Ruggs. Like there's height, weight, speed guys coming out of college right now. It's not just all the focus on speed and spacing. You're still getting some lengthy guys that actually know and have some amazing athletic ability there. So if I was in the wrong direction on that, James, I apologize, but I think that's where you were going from there.
Yeah. And I think analytics are going to take a little bit of a dip this next year, because you have to look at almost like grading things on a curve, just with the current climate, and no team has an advantage over the other. But this is uncharted water that the NFL is going into, and I'm pumped that they're still going into it, because that's going to be a great thing for Broncos country. But also know it's important to know if they're a football player versus just an athlete. The underwear Olympics, I love them too. The NFL Combine, that's why I travel around, do these scouting trips. But you know what? You could play football, or you could be a Calvin Klein model, and you can't do both in most cases. So I'm looking at these players and like, hey, let's get them on the gridiron. Show me that you can catch the football, and show me you can score. Enough with the workout videos.
Yeah, absolutely. Eclipse coming in here. What's up, dude? Long time no see for me, at least on the Dove Valley Deep Divers. We are the Mile High Insiders tonight, but happy Saturday, Deep Divers, Mile High Insiders, and Broncos country. Just checking in to say peace and love from Philly. What's up, dude? Hashtag state of being. Now, all right, so Terry Randall coming in here, and this is going to set up our next topic of conversation. Yeah, thank you again, Eclipse. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Terry Randall coming in with another $2 super here. Agim will start 8+ games with 8+ tackles for loss, 5+ sacks, and 13 quarterback hurries. That's kind of a lengthy stretch there on this one. It's a hot take to me.
I love it.
I like it a lot. It's just, to me, what you're going to see on the front side of the defensive line here, and Agim really speaks to a true pass rush, like an interior pass rusher. He's not going to hold up great in a running game. I mean, there's some there to work with him. Not a very good 2-gap player. Doesn't work well off of double teams. Speed, interior penetration. That's the name of his game. You're going to see him as a 3-4-5 technique defensive end in sub packages, where he can actually get after the quarterback on long third and long situations, stuff like that. Obvious passing downs, but to me, to have him start 8+ games when you have Jarrell Casey, who's one of the best interior defensive linemen in all of the NFL, and then Draymond Jones. And we just got done talking about Draymond Jones last night on Dove Valley Deep Divers. Eric Trickle actually thinks that Draymond Jones should start in front of Shelby Harris. So there's another quality interior pass rusher there for the Broncos. Agim, as a rookie, starting 8+ games, little rich for me. Love the stats, though. If that can actually come to pass, I'm about it, man. I'm so about it.
Yeah, Shelby Harris isn't a starter, and he proved that last year. They were trying to pretend that he was Akeem Hicks, and he wasn't, and he went out and tried to get paid, and he didn't. So he came crawling back to the Broncos, and it is what it is. He's a great rotational player. Bottom line is, I take sacks over batted balls any day of the week. That being said, he's also won the Broncos some games based off those batted balls, especially the Raiders last year. I was at that game, and I would just be sick if the Raiders won that game, and that was it for the Oakland Raiders over the Denver Broncos. But it didn't happen, and you can thank Shelby Harris. Back to McTelvin Agim. Terry, I love that take, and I'm with you there, brother. I'm gonna go with him. I'm gonna double down on that too, because I saw McTelvin Agim firsthand down in Tampa, and I saw the coaches and scouts for the Broncos drooling over this guy. Nobody really knew who he was coming into this scouting event, because he also went to the Senior Bowl a week later, right? So this kid just made the all-star circuit. He's nasty, he's mean, he's physical, he's athletic, and he's got a high motor. This is a guy that's not going to quit. I'm waiting for Bill Kollar to get his hands on this young man, because I'm looking at guys like him and Mike Purcell, who's entering a contract year, and they got to get after it immediately. McTelvin Agim, one of the best unkept secrets, the Arkansas Razorback defensive lineman, is coming to the Broncos, and he is going to be a force to be reckoned with. I love it.
I'm about it, man. I just don't know about starting 8 games. Like you've got Draymond Jones, who
look at the injuries though. You got to look at the injuries, because the big uglies are going to get hurt. So that's the only way I'm looking at that, because Nick's a big Draymond Jones guy too, and I'm getting there. Man, Jarrell Casey, I mean, I'm there. Like that guy, I'm there. I love defensive linemen. They're some of my favorite to look at. I know Nick too. So yes, we look at Draymond Jones. We battle back and forth there. I think Mike Purcell's going to give him a run for his money. But McTelvin Agim, I do like him in the 3 technique. I do like him in the 5 technique. He's got some versatility, like you said. The run game is a big concern. Being able to penetrate through. If he doesn't penetrate through, he can sometimes get lost in the shuffle, especially on that line of scrimmage. And that's something that's a really bad thing for a defensive lineman. But he put on healthy weight. I think 10 or 15 pounds of just natural muscle between December and January. So when we saw him down in Tampa, I don't have his weight pulled up right in front of me right now, but he wasn't sloppy. The dude was nasty. He was getting after it. I'm pumped to have him. And that's one of the reasons that you've got to look everywhere for football players, because talent can come from anywhere, Lance.
Yeah, no, absolutely can. I'm very intrigued to see what he's going to look like in training camp this year. I really am. Now we're about down to the last 10, maybe 15 minutes. We might be able to get a little bit long, but not too long. We got an hour time limit, but if we go a little long, it's not going to be too bad. Let's break down this kind of rapid fire on the last few of these. The 4th round, the Broncos went and got Albert Ojemudia, for the butchering of his last name. Drew Lock's tight end at Missouri. And it's kind of weird to see this because, I understand the 4.49 speed that he ran at the combine. He doesn't play like that. He's not that true seam stretching tight end that everyone wants to picture him as like that. But he is a massive red zone threat. And with Noah Fant on the other side, if you can get 2 massive tight ends that can box out in the red zone, I want to see Noah Fant become the kind of red zone threat that Albert Ojemudia can actually be, because Albert O uses his size to his advantage. Noah Fant needs to bully up just a little bit and quit being the finesse player. He could be a true dynamic red zone threat there. But Albert O is going to have a very specific role on this team. He's not going to be out there all the time. He's going to be the number 1 backup to Noah Fant. He's going to be a red zone threat. That is what their Broncos are probably going to do with him, because he just doesn't play like the seam stretching athletic ability that he has. It doesn't play like that. Yeah, no, but you gotta keep. Drew Lock's best friend, one of his best friends being Albert Ojemudia, is I messed it up too. I prided myself, Lance, on being able to say that name. I'm going to get it. Albert Ojemudia. There we go. I got it. You heard it first here on Mile Insiders. He's very close to Drew Lock, and that's no joke. John Elway calling Drew saying, "What do you think about this tight end? What do you want, Drew?" And he's saying, "Go get me my guy from Mizzou." That's a huge implication on what Drew Lock likes out of this guy. And it's not just one of those deals where, we had a couple beers at Mizzou and I'd love for him to be a part of the Broncos. Yeah, he's the greatest thing ever. No, if he has a great season, and I mean productive, I mean being able to come in and contribute on special teams, show that he could be a consistent backup to Noah Fant, I think he could be pushing Noah Fant. I really do. I think this pick screams Noah Fant. We've got guys behind you that want that number 1 spot, and we're trying to encourage you to toughen up. You're already a great athlete. You're a great wide receiver. How do we turn you into a tight end? I want a nasty tight end that's willing to fight for a few extra yards, take those physical hits, because I already know he's a stallion. I just want to see him become a Bronco. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just going to be fun to watch with Alberto and how they interact with that dynamic there. And I brought it up with KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy. What happens if you put Alberto and Noah Fant in the slot? in a 12 personnel where you have one running back, 2 tight ends. You have Jeudy on one side, Cortland Sutton on the other side, and you have Alberto and Noah Fant running across the middle of the field and working that way, stretching the seams if they could possibly get Alberto to play like
yes,
that.
exactly.
That's a lot of dynamic mismatch over the middle of the field. Like right now, the Broncos have a potential, like the potential is dripping off of this offense. It's all going to go back down to what Drew Lock can do, but the weaponry is here for the first time since like 2013, where the Broncos have multiple guys that can beat you vertically, they can beat you horizontally, they can get you with quick and elite route running. They can get open quickly within the down. They can also beat you with the ball in their hands after the catch. Like there's so many ways that this Broncos offense can beat you. It's just going to have to come down to, can they all work it out and meld together? Now, to move on to our next one, the Broncos in the 5th round went out and got Wake Forest linebacker Justin Strnad. And this is a very interesting pick here because Strnad is not your true typical 3-down linebacker. He's going to be a coverage linebacker. He's not very big. He's pretty good sideline to sideline, but he's not an overly vertically fast kind of a guy. I think he ran like a 4.78, which is on the lower end for a guy that you want to have as a coverage linebacker. But still, the way that he understands, this is a very cognizant player. He knows exactly what he needs to do, understands his drop depths. He understands his angles, angular attack. And he's a very good tackler out in the open field as well. He drives on the ball very well, has decent hands, can get his hands on some footballs and take it the other way as well. But it's a niche role for him right now, and he's going to have to overtake 2 of the best run-defending linebackers that the Broncos have had in a long time, and Alexander Johnson, and specifically Todd Davis here. Alexander Johnson, I think there's something to work with as far as a coverage linebacker goes. We saw the big interception that he had in the Chargers game, week 5, his first game, the red zone interception that he had there. So there's something to work with there, but he's just so good as an A-gap blitzer. Why would you take him away from that? Now, Strnad is going to take over those coverage reps for Todd Davis, but is he going to be the full-time starter in the middle of the season? Are we going to see the end of Todd Davis in Denver here soon?
Yeah, I think Todd Davis could be a veteran camp casualty. Maybe it's hard to say in a normal year. In a normal year, I think he could be. I don't know this year just because it's not a normal year. Justin Strnad, you're exactly it. I think the way I would sum up Justin Strnad, he's what Sua Cravens should have been. For the Denver Broncos, and why Sua Cravens, why the Broncos went and traded him. He's that linebacker safety hybrid where he's not quite quick enough to be a defensive back, but he's not quite heavy enough to be a linebacker. So is he going to be your Travis Kelce killer? No, probably not. But he's going to understand angles, very much like they want Josie Jewell to utilize angles and stuff like that. He's got that quickness. He's got a little bit more agility than Josie Jewell. So he's that hybrid linebacker / safety that the Broncos are looking for. Should help them in the pass game.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right there. Josie Jewell, I was so high on him just because, again, like my guy from Wyoming, man, Logan Wilson, not the greatest athlete in the world.
He was my guy too. I wanted him so bad, Lance. He was there.
I remember that too. I wanted Logan Wilson so bad in a Denver Broncos uniform.
Yeah, and it's a damn shame he's with the Bengals because, I hope they don't ruin him because the guy he's going to be a player. For anybody watching the University of Wyoming, I know we got a huge fan base from Mile High Huddle and University of Wyoming and all that stuff. And Lance, I know you're out there, baby. Logan Wilson, man, that guy, seeing him at his pro day, the guy's a freak. So if you could somehow turn Justin Strnad into that coverage linebacker, you're going to be okay for the Broncos. I'd look at him more of as a role player, like you said, coming off the bench, special teams guy for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's probably going to be his biggest impact. In fact, that's probably going to be 3 out of the next 4 guys, including Strnad here. Brian actually coming in here, bringing up and getting the conversation moving here again. Can Netane Muti play this season, or will he be on IR? And as of right now, at least the last that I had heard was he's geared up and ready to go. Like he's ready to play, and it might be on a limited basis. They might check him out, get him out there, and let him get his feet wet and get back. I mean, he had a knee injury, he had a torn Achilles as well. Hasn't really played competitive football on a full time. It hasn't played a full season since 2017, but this is a very intriguing pick just because the value with Netane Muti was so huge. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's a potential 2nd round pick this last year. He's that good. there was a very interesting comparison. I got to go back to it. Will Hernandez, the Will Hernandez out of UTEP, and Netane Muti, same guy, except Netane Muti is probably not quite as far as like a mobile guy. He's not going to work laterally as well, but he does work vertically very well because he's so mean and so nasty. If he can play and is gonna be healthy, you have an immediate availability for a swing guard on either side. He can also, I don't think he can play the center position, but he can be an immediate backup and come in and play behind Dalton Reiser and can play behind Graham Glasgow, and is going to be a tremendous player. And in fact, if there's any kind of crazy, injury situations and stuff like that, remember Dalton Reiser played right tackle at Kansas State. So why not switch Dalton Reiser or get him out to that right tackle position? See, what he's not long enough to do that at the NFL level effectively, but I think he could still actually switch out and do that, get back to his comfortability of being able to play that right tackle position. Slide in Netane Muti at the left guard. You're not missing a beat there at all.
I like Muti too. I think he was the strongest player at the combine with the bench press of 225. I think he put it up, I think like 42 or 47, some ridiculous amount. And you guys be sure to look that up. He's as strong as a bull, folks, and he's going to fit in with Lauren Landau and what he has those Broncos offensive linemen doing terrifically. I like him a lot as a backup, Lance, just like you said. I think he operates out of that phone booth. He can shift back and forth for the pass pro, and he's going to be able to lean on the center, Lloyd Cushenberry, if that was the case. He's known for being a mauler in the run game, but I like his blue-collar grit. I think you're starting to see the Broncos build the backups for the offensive linemen that they already know are going to be starters, and that's an encouraging thing because man, it sucks when one of your starters get hurt, right? Everybody knows that. And when they go down, you've got a huge hole that you've got to plug. So I like Muti. Don't know if he's going to be playing much, but if somebody got hurt, I'd be really, really pumped to see him come in and get some snaps.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about him. I really am. Like I said, if we're talking about a potential second-round pick here, guys, this is an amazing – and going back to, like you said, it really sucks when one of your starters gets hurt, especially when you have the offensive line depth that the Denver Broncos have had since 2015. It's been atrocious. So now we actually have a guy, Elijah Wilkinson. You can say what you want about him, but at least as far as a guy that can come in and play some valuable snaps, maybe not as a starter, a guy gets nicked up for a game or whatever. He can come in and play at right guard. He can come in and play at right tackle. You got a versatile guy there. He's at least competent enough to be able to play there. Now, there's nobody on the inside last year for the Denver Broncos. I mean, Austin Slotman played okay. Patrick Morris was in his time at center and also at guard. He was better at guard than at center. But now that the Broncos have a guy that's a potential second-round pick as a backup player, they have Elijah Wilkinson, who's pretty good. They've got some stuff to work with. Austin Slotman again as well. So there's something that the Broncos actually have some depth to the offensive line. And I actually put it out in the article on my Drew Lock article the other day. If everybody plays healthy and Garrett Bowles takes another step forward in his development with a competent quarterback that can manipulate the pocket, step up, and manipulate some pressure as well, you got Juwan James comes back, plays healthy the entire time, the Denver Broncos might have a top 10 offensive line this year. Like, that's how good this offensive line has a potential of being. Again, that P word, the one that nobody really wants to hear. But if they actually gel cohesively and come together as one full unit, there's a lot of talent on that offensive line, just natural, raw offensive line talent there. And Moody's going to fit in well.
I'm not going to say they're going to become one of the best offensive lines in the league because you can't have Garrett Bowles on there and say that. You just absolutely cannot, and I will not go there at all. And no way. I'm going to fight that and push that back. But you're exactly right. Elijah Wilkinson's very competent. If you get Muti in there, you're building that room back up, and you're putting guys in chairs of that positional room that are going to be there for a while, and they're going to start building a culture. And I think that's what you're really getting at, Lance, when you talk about the poor history of the offensive line play within really the last decade. It's been bad. It's just been bad. And they haven't been able to figure it out. And there hasn't been a culture really since Alex Gibbs. Well, you've got Mike Munchak now, and he's starting to embrace and set his own culture. John Elway's given him the players that he wants to spearhead that culture. So I like the pick in Muti.
Yeah, me too as well. I'm going to grab this super from Zach's Web Design really fast. $10 super. Do you think that the D-line will always be refreshed since we have players to rotate in? By the way, I just want to support the best MHH group out there. Hey, that speaks a lot to me.
Thank you, Zach.
That one. That's amazing, man. Your guys' support, literally, the super chats are great and everything like that. To me, it's not about any of that. I just love to come here and talk some football. And your guys' outpouring of support all the time, whether just any comments, any donations, stuff like that. It's amazing to me. It leaves me speechless. The only thing I can say is thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate that a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Zach. I think the D-line is absolutely going to be refreshed. And do I miss Derek Wolfe? You bet. He was one of my favorite players. I've gotten to meet him, cover him on several events. He's just one of the best dudes. When you see him out there, boxing and simulating tackles, it kills me to know that he's a Raven, but I'm very happy for him to know that he's there. That being said, out with the old and with the new, Jarrell Casey is going to bring a force to this defensive line. He's going to change the room a little bit. He's going to get after guys. He does not compromise anything in the run game or the pass game. He's going to light a fire with Bill Kolar coaching this defensive line under all of these guys. They're young guys in the defensive line room. You got your veteran players in Shelby Harris and Jarrell Casey. You got Mike Purcell, who's a vet and stuff like that now, but he's still a young guy too. You don't have a lot of injuries on this defensive line right now, something I'm really, really encouraged about.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun because there's a lot of a lot of versatile pieces to work with this defensive line. You're going to see a lot of guys that can play that 3-4-5 tech. I wish there was another guy that could play the 0 and 1 technique, the 2 technique, take some double teams in the middle, other than just Mike Purcell. Again, like I said, Shelby Harris, probably not the best way to do that. McTelvin Agim, not going to be the best guy to do that. I'm intrigued to see if Draymond Jones can anchor a little bit better in the running game and take on some double teams, but he's probably not going to play that 0-1, that true nose tackle technique. But still, right. There's a lot of different variations of how you can plug in some of these true pass rushers. I mean, the Broncos have true interior pass rushers for the first time since Malik Jackson and Derek Wolfe lined up in 2015. Like, there's actually depth here to work with. So it's going to be really fun to see how everything works out. Now, guys, we are a little over our 1 hour time limit here, so we got to wrap this up. Let's get to the 7th round picks in Florida wide receiver Tyree Cleveland. To me, he can stretch the field vertically in the offense, but that's not where you're going to see him at. He's going to be a special teams gunner, specifically, if he even does make this roster. I mean, we still don't know. It's going to be between Deshaun Hamilton and Tyree Cleveland for that 6th wide receiver, if the Broncos do even keep 6 wide receivers. But still, I mean, there's the special teams impact there. He was a returner at Florida as well. Very quality as a gunner. And if he does get a chance to get on the offense, I like him as a deep threat.
Yeah, everybody looks at Freddie Swain out of Florida, and you hardly think of Tyree Cleveland, and for good reason. But I will say I like Cleveland's athleticism. That gunner, special teams hasn't been good for the Broncos either. And I know nobody likes to talk about it because it's not fun to talk about, just to be honest with you. But
hey, I take offense to that. We love talking special teams on DVDD.
I'm not talking kickers, punters, unless it's Marquette King threatening people. That's about it. But other than that, no, you look at the special teams. He's going to be a special teams guy. And I think he's also another guy that was brought in to light a fire under Juwan Winfrey. Winfrey was looking great last year, and then he got hurt and kind of disappeared. And he played a couple of games, I think, for the Broncos, or at least suited up, but just kind of faded it away. So I think with this young guy, this young blood coming into the wide receiver room, it's a heavy room. It's jam-packed. Guys are either going to have to learn to be comfortable with the competition, or they're going to see themselves out of the league.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And Juwan Winfrey is probably going to see his last snaps as a Denver Bronco here soon. He might not even make the cut down to 80. Like, let's be honest here. With all the talent the Broncos brought in the receiver position, he might not make the cut down to 80, which is going to be, I believe it's August 16th is the day that every NFL roster has to either cut down to 80 or they have to split their training camp into 2 different facilities. And I don't project any team actually wanting to do something like that. Now, the last pick of the Denver Broncos 2020 draft class out of North Dakota State, Derek Tuska, outside linebacker, defensive end, hybrid kind of a player, really twitched up, really good in the running game. I was surprised when I saw him in the running game. Not really a bendy kind of, he used a lot of speed to power. He's not super quick twitch, off of the snap.
Right.
Not very bendy. He's not a Von Miller. He's more of a Bradley Chubb.
Yes.
But there's a niche role here because the Broncos, the edge depth that they do have this year. Yeah, Malik Reed played fairly decently. They got Jeremiah Tauchu, who I was in love with last year, especially down the stretch. That Buffalo game that he had was absolutely amazing. But still, outside of that, if you can get Derek Tuska, especially in the running game, over Malik Reed, I'm taking that every single day and twice on Sundays.
Yeah, I like it too. Derek Tuska, he looks looks lean. He looks like he can be bendy, but he's not. He's not Gumby. He's not Von Miller. Nobody else is. But I like the leverage that he uses. He's able to use those long arms that he's got. I got to see him this last offseason too, on the All-Star road trip. Broncos were high on this guy too. I think they see him as a project. I think it's one of those Bill Kolar things where it's like, I like him. Let's see what we could do with this young kid. Now, Adam Gotsis didn't work out, but the nice thing is this is the last pick of the draft. Okay, it's considered what, Mr. Irrelevant, or no, that's the total last draft pick. Excuse me, but not to throw shade at this young guy in Derek Tuska, but there's some radio hosts out there saying that he could be like an Isaiah Simmons type of an athlete. No. I heard that and just about like drove off of the road because I was one of the biggest Isaiah Simmons fans there is. I think he's a project. Lauren Landau needs to put a good 15 pounds of muscle on this guy. Yeah. And then you're exactly right, Lance. You're looking at that Bradley Chubb, that Khalil Mack style of power and using the leverage. He's not going to be the quickest guy with a swim or a rip move, but he's going to be able to use those long legs to drive those tackles back and make it really uncomfortable when that tackle's being shoved into the quarterback.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. One guy that I really liken him to, and it's not necessarily a true size comparison here, because I believe that Derek Tuska is at least a handful of inches taller than Elvis Dumervil, but that's the kind of player you're going to get out of this guy. Quick twitch, but he also uses very long arms and very great leverage to get underneath the pads and turn speed into power, and he's going to drive guys back that way in the passing game. It's going to be very fun to watch him. Now, that's actually going to wrap it up. We wanted to get into Terry Randall coming in here with another $2 Superman.
10 starts for Strnad, Terry, man. Terry is throwing it down tonight, and I love the takes. He's going with Justin Strnad, 10 starts, 90 told, 5 pass breakups, I imagine, 1 interception. Dang. So Terry's got Justin Strnad coming in there and that tells me he's solving the tight end dilemma right there if I'm looking at those stats. Because tight end's been a problem that plagues the Broncos forever. I don't know if he's your Kelsey killer, but something's got to happen here, Lance. I don't know who's going to cover tight ends in the AFC West, but Justin Strnad, what do you think?
I really like him in zone coverage, but I'm not sure that I trust him in man coverage right now. I just don't really. He has the athletic ability to drive that way vertically, especially with like a Travis Kelce or George Kittle. If you want to put him in a box out situation against, we're going to see him this year in week 3, Rob Gronkowski against Justin Strnad. I don't think that's going to go. That's not a matchup we're going to really want to see.
No.
Justin Strnad is going to get blown away by Rob Gronkowski.
I agree. He's not a player you want backpedaling.
No, like you want to see him if you're going to have a back pedal, you want to see him dropping into a zone where he can click and close and drive on the football. 90 plus tackles is what Terry is getting there, and then 5 pass breakups and an interception. You know what? I'm on board with that. I'm also on board with the 10 plus starts. I don't think, well, maybe not 10 plus, but that 8 plus that you gave McTelvin Agim, give him to Justin Strnad, because that's the player that he's going to be. Like, he's going to get those 8 starts. He's going to take over that starting role for Todd Davis sooner rather than later. He's going to start at least 8 games for this Broncos defense. Now, there was another one that came in here. Let's see if I can find it. Oh my goodness, Pabby, why?
Miss Pabby.
You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Your support for not only MHI, for DVDD, building the Broncos huddle up is just, you are truly like Mount Rushmore super chat superstar here. Your generosity just knows no bounds. I'm telling you, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Again, thank you. Really high on our offense this season. Can't be more excited. At the end, I want to be able to say what an offense we have. And obviously, our defense is great. I'm high without any drinks or shots. Go Broncos.
Yeah, Pavy. I love it. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pabby. And you're exactly right. There is so much to be excited for if you're a member of Broncos country. And man, I'm gonna go look at some Justin Strnad tape, I think, tomorrow morning, because now if you guys are telling me I'm gonna see some starts out of this kid, we're seeing a lot of rookies coming in here, Lance, that are gonna be starting. They're gonna be playing games in 2020. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it, because it's a literally changing of the guard for the Broncos. So I am super pumped. I know we're up against it, so we're going to wrap it up. Lance, I just want to say thank you so much, man. It's been so much fun going over. I don't even care because the fans, you guys are worth it. Our supers are worth it. Our comments are worth it. Being able to mix it up on these podcasts. I got Jeudy's back there on the 1s and 2s, throwing it down. And yeah, you guys are great. I love Saturday night football. I love Broncos football, and you guys are absolutely killing it.
Yeah, man, it's just amazing. Come on to a show and just the outpouring of love and support for this show, for Luke specifically, for myself as well. I mean, I'm just kind of the guy. I'm gonna hide over here really, but anyways, like it's just so much fun to be able to get on with you guys and to talk some Broncos football and give our takes and stuff like that. And I hope you guys really appreciate what we do. I know. According to your support anyways, it really does look like you do appreciate us and what we do. Exactly. As Duke comes in here late, right before the buzzer, drop a quick like, subscribe, and share, Broncos fam. Thank you, MHI. Well done, Lance and Luke. Fantastic pod. Duke, mile high salute to you. Mile high salute to all of the rest of our Super Chat superstars. Guys, we're going to get out of here. But first, before we get out of here, you can follow me on Twitter at Sanderson MHH, for Luke at Luke Patterson LP. Also, guys, follow at MHI_football pod for instant news and analysis on the Mile High Insiders podcast. Also at DVDD_pod is the easiest way to keep your fingers on the pulse of what's going on with the Dove Valley Deep Divers. Head on over to huddleuppod.com and get your merch. Hit the merch booth on your way out, guys. Always get yourself a hat, get yourself a t-shirt. There's a coffee cup, a face mask, hoodies, anything for guys, girls, whatever suits your fancy. Get at that. And if you're not in a financial position to do so, as Duke Boynton, the Duke of Falcon on Twitter, I believe is his Twitter handle, Duke of Falcon. Subscribe wherever you're watching this show, whether it be on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever that may be. Subscribe to Mile High Huddle. Like every video you guys see, and if you love it, share it. Share it to the rest of the world. Share it to the rest of Broncos country, and that is the easiest way to support the show and help us grow. Now, I always say this at the end of every show, and I'm surprised there hasn't been a hashtag come out of this yet. But Luke, before we get out of here, any last words?
Always believe in that Mile High magic.
Yeah, always believe in that Mile High magic. Now, guys, you have a great rest of your weekend. Luke, thank you for having me on the Mile High Insiders. Thank you all for watching the Mile High Insiders. We will see you guys next week. Same time, same place. Y'all stay safe, take care, and have a great weekend.